good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Tonight, we would like to talk about a well-known individual in Zimbabwe. Cucsman, he's a singer. He used to be a passionate supporter of Chamisa. And in a recent article he posted, he was being critical of Professor Mugano. And I think what he said there, I mean, he covered a lot of things, but one of the things that he covered there is, for those who are not familiar, Professor Mugano is a professor of economics at the University of Zimbabwe, I think, and he used to advise Nelson Chamisa and company on their economic policies for the elections. And he used to write critiques of ZANU-PF policies, which I think many people agreed with. But recently he has changed, and notably praising the regime's policies, monetary policies, which many people found surprising. And in this article, Cucsman is saying maybe Mugano is right. He should be free to work with ZANU-PF and change things on the margins than work with Chamisa and get nowhere. So this is interesting. Ben, have you read the article?
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. Yes, I had the opportunity to read the article. And it's no surprise really, because I mean, with Zimbabwean politics, we have seen politicians go back and forth, you know, across, jumping across the board. One minute there's ZANU-PF, the next minute the opposition, and then come back and change. It's, for me, I would say it's more of follow the money. Where your bread and butter is at, that is where you go. You know, this is the type of political leaders that we have brought out and we have supported, and we want to be the future of Zimbabwe. And it's very worrying. It's very, very worrying that you find these men that we want to give such offices that demand integrity, and yet they cannot show integrity with the small things. Surely, when you have characters like this in offices that are supposed to serve the people, we are surely looking for trouble.
I think what needs to be understood here is that there is a misunderstanding. When somebody is saying Professor Mugano used to work with Chamisa, people are supposed to assume that he was doing the right thing then. And so now working for Mnangagwa is doing the wrong thing. One needs to understand that Cucsman himself at one time supported Chamisa, and he has become a critic of Chamisa. And he has explained why. And on this program, we did at the time when he came out criticizing Chamisa. I personally agreed with him. Because what he was saying there is Chamisa has failed to perform. And we cannot deny, this is what we have been saying ourselves on this platform again and again, that Nelson Chamisa and his MDC friends are corrupt, incompetent, liars, and conmen. So my argument would be, if Professor Mugano was working with these guys all these years, then he was wrong. He should have known that, particularly when you're looking at somebody with that level of education, to be professor of economics at a university, you really are somebody who one can say is enlightened. And therefore then, why has he failed to see that Chamisa and company are ZANU PF Team B in all but name? That is what I can understand. As much as one can say some of the economic policies that he gave them, he was advising Chamisa and company, may have made a lot of sense, just as much as some of the criticism that he has of ZANU PF policies has made a lot of sense. I think as a professional, you should stick to what is right and be careful with whom he is associated. Because to be associated with corrupt, incompetent sellouts like Chamisa and company is not a compliment at all. Just as much as it is not a compliment to be associated with tyrants like Mnangagwa, etc. That would be my take on this issue.
First of all, just the first paragraph from Cucsman shows that there is a misunderstanding from that point. Because he says in Zimbabwean politics, we often misidentify the real problem. The bigger devil is ZANU PF, and the lesser devil is the opposition built around Chamisa. Now, we often give an example to say, we are the mice, and either Chamisa or Mnangagwa can either be a black mamba or a cobra. And we as the mice, we are supposed to look at one as a lesser devil than the other. I mean, clearly, it will not work. Because at the end of it, both can kill us. We are in this problem because of both Chamisa and Mnangagwa. They have done nothing to help our cause, but they have inflicted pain, suffering, and sometimes death. So you cannot then describe Zimbabwean politics as that there is a better devil in between, and from the two devils we may choose. The mouse cannot choose neither a black mamba or a cobra, because both will kill it. We are in trouble, and we are in trouble because our institutions and our politics are haywire. We need to fix those first. Then we can start thinking about having different candidates out there come, because they themselves will be governed by stronger institutions. Any country that is doing well, for example, I don't want to go as far as the West. You look at Botswana, you get at South Africa. They have good and strong, powerful institutions built and cemented in their society. Zimbabwe doesn't have those. And unless we get those and fully cement them, can we actually have good leaders? So we cannot settle for less just because we have not done the groundwork. That is my position.
Yeah, like I said, at the beginning, the main problem here is the issue of Professor Mugano. He may have given Chamisa and company sound advice on their economic policies, but he should also have understood that the opposition were asking, for instance, people to participate in a flawed election, which he must have known that it is flawed, which he must have known that participating in the flawed election will only give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And that Chamisa and company had no intention of ever getting into power. All this talk about I'm preparing the cabinet, we are going to form the next government, this God's plan, and so forth. Somebody like Professor Mugano should have seen through that. And as a professional, you should have refused to be associated with it. Because when people see somebody with a good standing in society working with an opposition, for instance, or in this case here, switched to ZANU-PF, people would think, well, if somebody like him who understands some of these things much clearer than some of us is believing, but working with these people, then it must be good. And I think that is totally misleading. We really need people who are professional, but also understand their social responsibility in society, that people will be looking at you as somebody who will give them guidance. And if you think participating and helping, working with somebody like Chamisa, when you know he is scorning people, that cannot be right. And then to be working with Mnangagwa, trying to create the impression that this Vision 2030 can be realized, that too is misleading. And I think that is totally irresponsible.
No, I get where you're coming from, because I mean, this is a public figure that had been respected in different circles of society. But what makes us human is our ability to think and see for ourselves. I mean, for long we have had the opposition and ZANU-PF merrymaking, right in front of our eyes. We've seen them since the time of the GNU, when they were together. There was absolutely no friction within there. One, you would have thought that they were so very compatible. And yet, these were two opposites that were supposed to have been rubbing each other, causing friction amongst each other, because one needed reforms to change a broken system, and one still wanted to continue with the broken system. But they gelled because they had common ground. None wanted any change at all. Hence, you find it is very simple for one to move from MDC or Triple C into ZANU PF and move right back. You fit right back. And mind you, they will not lose the position. They will still be holding positions on either front. They are useful to both sides because they themselves cannot be trustworthy. It it discourages me when so many Zimbabweans out there put trust in what other people are doing instead of you looking for the right attributes from one person and copy and leave, the bad or the junk. If people start stealing, it does not necessarily mean let's all steal. And I spoke about integrity at the beginning. What our politics lacks is people of integrity. People who say, let your nay be nay and your yea be yea. We do not have those people. And that is why you find they are like bats, neither an animal or a bird. They simply just go both ways. And that person is very dangerous. He is very, very dangerous. And I hope we learn something from that.
Thank you very much. I think the other argument that Cucsman made regarding this move is that somehow Professor Mugano is contributing something because since ZANU-PF in power, he may be changing policies on the margin, and it's better than doing nothing. Again, I dispute that argument. This is nothing more than giving somebody painkillers, and you're failing to give them the real medicine. If you've got a broken leg, being given painkillers will not solve your problem. You still need to have that broken leg attended to. And I think we have done enough damage in Zimbabwe with people who would want to work on the margins and create the impression that the system is working when they know it's not working. ZANU-PF has never had any problems recruiting professionals to work for the regime. Many of them have been used as nothing more than window dressing to give the impression to the world that the regime has got talented people. when in reality, it doesn't. It does in name, but in reality, it does not, because the system itself does not allow people to make a meaningful contribution. I can give an example of the first Minister of Finance in Zimbabwe, Dr. Bernard Chizero. He was a renowned economist and banker in his own right. But when he was working for ZANU-PF for Mugabe, in Mugabe's cabinet, you could tell that he would have never approved some of the policies that regime was following. But he was forced to. And so the country continued to drift in the wrong direction, and yet still had some of these renowned individuals in power. The current Minister of Finance, the same thing. He has also talked about earning some money. I think we need to end this culture that as long as I'm earning a living, the rest doesn't matter. You should not earn your living at the expense of others. I would have stayed with his university lectureship and not be involved in ZANU-PF politics for the sake of earning a few more pennies. The people of Zimbabwe who have followed him over the years respected his analysis and had faith in him that he is telling them the truth. But when he switched over and started telling them that the policies are working, the policies of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe are working on this new currency, people were confused and frustrated, because here is somebody they have followed and believed in, now telling them something that they themselves can see with their own eyes, that this system will never work. It is frustrating, it is unfair, and people should take their professional responsibility with the seriousness and urgency the matter demands. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
Taking an advisor position in ZANU-PF, is more like, I watched one video clip where, Mnangagwa was in a Pollard meeting. And one would have thought that, they are actually there to discuss, around the table. But as usual, ZANU-PF would want to address you and tell you what they want and close that meeting, and it's done. And it made sense again when you find the likes of Trevor Ncube, when they were invited to be the advisor to the president. He says it didn't take time for him to realize that, oh no, we cannot advise this guy. He's completely taking another route. In short, I find it absurd that you stand for exactly the opposite to what ZANU-PF and Mnangagwa want to go or want to take the country to. what then do you, I mean, you're already at parallel. How then are you going to meet? Unless it was a cover up, or I'm following the money, stomach politics, or in Shona they say totambairi kurira. Chamisa is out in the sea, lost, you cannot make heads or tails of what is going on in his outfit. And the next best alternative is Mnangagwa, because ZANU PF want to push for even further. Our politics is scary, because we will find that again that word integrity comes in. We have very few men and women of integrity, and we do not even look or have a background check before we give them keys to the public office. And that alone for me is very worrying indeed. That once they get into these offices and these positions that demand accountability and traceability, and they have no ounce of integrity, we will surely be doomed, and we will be back crying to say we made a mistake. And Zimbabwe has been making a lot of mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'd like to apologize to some of our listeners there who normally would be listening to us at 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. We were delayed tonight. Hopefully tomorrow and in future we will try to keep to the agreed time. Thank you very much again for joining us, and have a good night.